You know who we are.
The most dangerous morning show.
Put some respect on it.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ Envy, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest on the line right now.
Yep.
Attorney Benjamin Crump.
Hey, how you doing, Envy? Honored to be with you.
Welcome back, brother. So tell us what's going on. Where you want to start, Charlamagne? You want to start
Attorney
Breonna
Crump.
Taylor? You want to start George
As I'm
Floyd?
saying,
Where you want to start?
Attorney Crump, you got so many fights you fight.
I know.
What we talking about this morning?
Hey, today we're talking about our sister Breonna Taylor, man. We're still never going to stop saying her name, not going to let them sweep her under the rug. Daniel Cameron is calling out Megan Thee Stallion and me for letting people know that he is Mitch McConnell's puppet and that he is bought and bossed by them and that he did not present evidence on Breonna Taylor's behalf in that grand jury proceeding. And so Charlamagne and Envy, I'm flying back to join my co-counsels, Lanita Baker and Sam Aguiar and Tamika Mallory and Until Freedom, because on tomorrow at 1 o'clock, Thursday, they're going to have a hearing to decide whether the juror who sued Daniel Cameron, the Kentucky Attorney General, because of the way the grand jury proceedings took place, and he wants to speak publicly, Charlamagne. That's something that never happens because the grand juries are secret. But this white man has come forward and sued him. We understand there's a second person now that's sued to be able to speak.
Let's break that down for people that don't understand. What happened? There was some evidence that weren't given to all the jurors, and because of that, the jurors feel like they were bamboozled and now want to sue. Is that what's going on?
That's exactly right, Envy. And remember, the grand jury proceedings are always secret. Right. It's a situation where the prosecutor, y'all, I swear to God, 99.9% of the time, anytime they go to the grand jury is going to do anything the prosecutor wants them to do. So when brothers and sisters, they have charges that are being alleged, the police arrest them, they always get an indictment. But it's only when the police kill black people that they can't get an indictment. They can't do anything to charge these killer cops with killing our people. And so Cameron and his prosecutors went in there, and as we suggested, Charlamagne, he was trying to help get these cops justified and exonerated, not going in there to fight for Breonna Taylor to get justice. And as we talked about, Envy, that's how you got those wanton endangerment, those bogus charges for the white neighbors having bullets shot through their wall, but not any charges for the bullet shot in Breonna Taylor's body. And he thought that he was going to be able to say, well, the grand jury made the decision and wash the blood of Breonna Taylor off his hands, but we ain't going to let him do that.
Yeah, I asked you last time when you and Teslin called in, I said, well, did they even present the case like a murder? And it's clear they didn't.
They absolutely didn't. Charlamagne, is so deep, man. When you listen to those recordings, and you don't have to take Ben Crump's word for it, everybody can listen to those recordings for themselves. There is apparently a black woman, Envy, after the prosecutor shows a snippet of the body cam video from one of the police. She says, can we see the rest of the body cam videos? And he says, well, ma'am, there's over 15 hours of body cam video from all the officers, and we just think that'll take too much time. To which she retorts, as only a black woman can, we got time, don't we, y'all? And that's on the tape, Charlamagne. And then they try to just deflect her. And I hope, man, when the judge rules, if he says they can speak, I hope that sister come on the Breakfast Club to tell the truth about how these prosecutors never wanted to get justice for Breonna Taylor. They never even offered evidence that the reason the police officers were there in the first place was based on a lie.
Yeah. You know, it's interesting, too, even watching Attorney Daniel Cameron on Fox News the other day, it's almost like they're avoiding the real conversation. Because I understand, them talking about Meg Thee Stallion, but it's Tamika Mallory who actually made those comments about him, and she's actually on the ground in Kentucky. Why he avoiding that smoke?
He's avoiding it like the plague because I believe he is a puppet for Mitch McConnell and Donald Trump, and he went, just like Tamika said, sold our people into slavery. And that's it was the perfect analogy that Queen made. And, you know, he went on Fox and he attacked Megan. He attacked me, said, oh, they just fall in the Ben Crump model, come in and misrepresent the facts and then leave town. Well, Daniel Cameron, I'm coming back to Louisville, Kentucky, and I'm going to keep coming back to be with Tamika Palmer, Breonna's mother, and these great lawyers I work with in Tamika and Until Freedom. And the only question in my mind, if that's Ben Crump's playbook to come and start ruckus when y'all kill innocent Black people unjustifiably and undeniably, what we want to know is, what is your playbook, Daniel Cameron? Is it to hide facts and make sure that people can kill innocent Black women and continue to disrespect them and neglect them from justice? That's what we're saying. There's pattern and practice that there are these two systems of justice in America, one for Black America and one for white America. And the shame, Charlamagne and Envy, is that they would use this puppet to try to perpetuate that Black lives don't matter.
Now, again, I see more and more people saying, oh, because the family took this, the payout, the money, that's the reason why. Can you explain to people why that's not true? Again.
And it is so asinine that they would say that. You know, you have a civil form of justice and you have a criminal form of justice. It is codified by the United States Constitution. If you feel you have been wronged or grieved, you can sue for compensation in the civil court. And it is the prosecutor, the government officials. You know, really, Breonna's family don't have any control over the criminal side. I don't have any control over the criminal side. The activists and protesters, the Constitution of the United States says the only people who can arrest and charge people is the government.
Right.
So this family taking what is one of the largest pretrial settlements in the history of police brutality is probably the only justice that they can control. Everything else is controlled by Daniel Cameron and now the Commonwealth attorney, Daniel Wine. But here's the good news, y'all. This is the good news, because the Breakfast Club audience and all the other audiences out there are using their voice. The protesters, and not just Queen Tamika, but even the local protesters on the ground in Louisville have been saying her name. Mm-hmm. Something else unprecedented can happen. They can reconvene another grand jury. Daniel Cameron, either he or the Commonwealth attorney, can appoint a special prosecutor, somebody who will give all the facts and tell the grand jury, when you look at this case, you are to consider that there was a police lieutenant that put on a probable cause affidavit that said Breonna Taylor was getting suspicious packages delivered to her apartment per the United States Postal Inspector. The Postal Inspector came out, Charlamagne and Envy, and said, we have no documentation whatsoever that Breonna Taylor got any packages delivered to her apartment, and we never told the police that. So it was based on a lie, and that's why the judge signed the probable cause affidavit. When are they going to tell the grand jury that? Don't you think that's relevant, Envy?
Absolutely.
Charlamagne, are we missing something?
No, not at all.
Absolutely.
I'm hearing that the case might get picked up federally too. Is that true?
There's a good chance if we keep making enough noise, because we have to remember, man, pressure bust pipes. We have to fight in the court of public opinion and the court of law. And therefore, you know, when they say the Ben Crump playbook is to keep making noise about killing Black people, you're right. Because if we don't make noise, Daniel Cameron, you ain't gonna say nothing about it. And so the Department of Justice can bring civil rights violations on behalf of Breonna Taylor's family to charge these officers. Mainly what we've been talking about, Charlamagne, the fact that they lied on that probable cause affidavit, number one, but then also the way they executed this no-knock warrant. And the one thing I want them to look at, y'all, it was foreseeable that there was going to be a Breonna Taylor tragedy. You know, of all the no-knock warrants executed in America, even though Black people only make up 13% of the population in America, almost 50% of all the no-knock warrants when they knocking people's doors at 1 a.m. are against Black people. So it was predictable something like this was going to happen when we got all these gun laws where people have a Second Amendment right. And, you know, more brothers are being registered gun owners. So when you bust in my house at 1 o'clock and you don't identify yourself, you don't announce yourself, and you in plain clothes, well, don't Black people have a right to the Second Amendment?
That's right.
Absolutely.
And Ben, let me ask you a question. What do you say to people who say all Ben Crump cares about is getting money, he don't care about actual justice? What would you say to them?
You know, it's a shame because you know how easy it would be, Charlamagne, for us just to get the money and don't say a word about the criminal side. I mean, my law firm, I have 13 law firms around the country. Over 55 people work for me, and we are doing all this roundup litigation. We're doing all this litigation with talcum powder and Johnson & Johnson, where we're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars. And, you know, last week I was blessed on Friday to win a $411 million verdict, which is the largest verdict in the history of the virtual Zoom trials, which is the wave of the future, Charlamagne. We have to talk about that, because the Supreme Court of the United States next week are going to have cases virtually. So everybody's starting to get used to that. But to answer your question directly, Charlamagne, I wish I could be like other lawyers and people who would just take the money and don't care and just move on. But I keep coming back. You know, we've settled Breonna Taylor. There's no reason for me to go back to Louisville today, other than I believe that if we don't hold these people accountable for killing our people, there will be no deterrent, and they will keep killing our children. And I can't sleep at night knowing that we didn't use everything in our power to say that when they killed Tamika Palmer's daughter, that's like they were killing all our daughters.
Right.
Yeah, and they like to say, you know, Ben don't win no cases. I'm like, I can't even think of how many cases actually got to court. How many got to court?
Yeah, you know, and there's in the history, Charlamagne, in the history of America, you know how many people they killed, Black people, police, and nobody ever been charged? It's talking about Black women. The Washington Post did an article. In the last 4.5 years, police have killed 250 Black women. And out of that, you know how many police officers been charged?
How many?
4.
Wow.
4 out of 250. Now, obviously,
Wow.
I represented about 10 sisters in the last 4 years. So how about these other 245 women? So what Black people have to do, Charlamagne, I honestly believe it's like, you know, all my heroes, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Thurgood Marshall, man, they had so much hate on them. That's why I don't never let this get to me, because you focused on your mission. I mean, they talked about Thurgood Marshall like a dog, say he can never win anything. The NAACP just need to get another person. But I understand we're dealing with history, and we know how history is going to judge our actions. And I subscribe to the T.S. Lawrence philosophy, Lawrence of Arabia, who said the most dangerous man in the world is the man who is so focused on his mission and his objective that he pays very little attention to what you're doing.
That's
and
right.
so we just focus, Charlamagne, on fighting for our people. And if we don't focus on fighting for our children, they will keep killing our children.
Now let's talk about George Floyd and George Floyd family and what you're doing with them and what's coming up this weekend.
Absolutely. So George Floyd's birthday is coming up, Envy, on October the 14th. And so what we very well may be doing is going to Minneapolis, Minnesota, and with Senator Kamala Harris and others, and leading a march to get people to come out and vote, because this election is real. And y'all, if I know there's no perfect candidates. Ain't nobody saying there are no perfect candidates. But when you think about the judges that Trump is appointing, I'm speaking directly for my life's mission. We go in these courtrooms, man, and you having to fight over 300 judges who Trump appointed, who think just like him, a Supreme Court if he gets his way, he's going to have 3 Supreme Court justices who are going to make policies that's going to mostly affect us, Envy, that's going to mostly affect whether we can overturn wrongful convictions, that's going to mostly affect whether we can get access to health care because of Obamacare, which is going to mostly affect, people don't even know, Charlamagne, most of my work I sue banks. I mean, we've had record settlements with banks for discrimination, trying to get Black people home loans and automobile loans and business loans. And Maxine Waters helps me a lot with those efforts. But if Trump gets all his people in, how much opportunity do you think Black people are going to have for access to justice? Based on the Black effect, what you're doing, Charlamagne, that's revolutionary when Black people have that kind of influence in America. And so we're fighting all these battles, and you can best believe the enemies of equality, they're fighting just as hard as we're fighting. So we got to try to figure out how to get these people out of office and start getting some of our people in office, at least where they can help us be allies with us to say Black lives matter and Black businesses matter, Black television matters, Black radio matters, because if we don't have that, we just banging against the wall with this guy who's in the White House now.
That's right. Tell us before you go, Ben, about this $411 million verdict. You was representing a veteran who got paralyzed, right?
Yeah, man. It was Dwayne Washington was one of the best of us, and Charlamagne, he was in a bad accident, 45-car pileup on I-10 in Florida. He served 7.5 years in the military, and as he testified in court, and it was heartbreaking, he said the 2 things I was good at, Envy, was 1, being a soldier, and 2, being a father. He said, and I had to give up 1 to focus on being great at the other. So he got out the military, highly decorated, served 2 tours, fought in Iraq for our country, because he wanted to be a better father. So he was the custodial father for his 3 sons. He was coming from work, this terrible accident that, I mean, the injuries are devastating. And he don't like to talk about it much, but he never can use the bathroom. His bladder, his bowels, he can't control. He has his pelvis that was fractured 7 times, his back, his closed head injury, brain injury. Wow. He went from being the man, as he said, Sergeant Washington, even though he got out of the military, who everybody admired and respected, the person who was the caretaker for the community and his family, to somebody now needing constant care. And so we did this trial. A lot of cases we don't get a lot of attention. We did this trial virtually, Charlamagne. It's so fascinating because, you know, it was one of the first times you had the judge and the lawyers and the client in the courtroom. Everybody else was on TV. All the expert witnesses, all the police accident reconstructionists, everybody, his family members were testifying, and we were looking at these faces of the jury sitting in their homes, and we were arguing, and I gave the argument, I think what really got them to give that $411 million, which is the highest amount ever paid for a virtual Zoom trial thus far in America, was his mother, who's a spiritual lady, said, my son was a good son. He always did the right thing. I just don't understand why God allowed this to happen to him. And I told the jury about my uncle, who was a great man. And even though he's dead, I would turn to him for advice. And I said, he's not here. So I had to think about what my Uncle Jesse would say. And he told me the story of the book of Job. And he said, Job, you know, God and Satan were having a conversation. And Satan said, the only reason they praise you is because you're so good to them. If you allow them to be inflicted with pain and to suffer, then they would curse you. And God, I told the jury, said, I'll let you go forward with this theory, Satan. Go pick any one of my children on earth. Satan searched for 24 hours. He came back to God and he said, you know, I've searched for 24 hours. I haven't found the right person to try to advance my theory. And God said, have you considered my subject Job? And see, God offered up Job. That's what many people don't understand. And as my uncle explained to me, God chooses his best soldiers for his toughest assignments to make a testimony. And I told them that Dwayne Washington, since I've been working on this case, I can tell you with every ounce of sincerity in my heart, this brother is one of the best people I've ever met on this earth. And so, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been chosen for an assignment as well, and that is to give justice to Dwayne Washington, and not 10% justice, not 50% justice, not 75% justice, but whole justice. You heard everything this strong Black good father has went through, how he's never going to be able to walk and all this stuff. And I broke it down to him how he's going to need constant care. And I said, if you give him anything less than the full amount to compensate him and his 3 sons from this trucking company, then that's less than justice. And you swore that you would do justice in this courtroom. And they came back, Charlamagne and Envy, God blessed us. They gave everything I asked for to the penny. And so now, Charlamagne and Envy, I'm getting all the calls from my brothers and sisters, frat brothers saying, let me hold something, Crump.
Let me hold something, Crump.
You think y'all gonna get all that money though?
They're gonna peel it, but I think it's gonna be a substantial amount we're gonna get for them.
All right.
Okay.
Well, we appreciate you calling in and checking in all the time, and you know you always got a place to talk here when need be.
And keep doing the work, Ben.
Absolutely.
Don't just keep doing the work, man. That's all you can do.
Hey, man, thank you so much, Charlamagne. I'm going to call you, talk about mental health one day, Charlamagne.
Let's do it.
Anyway,
You gonna need. I hope you got a good
at-
therapist you're talking to.
Hey, okay.
Okay.
All right, now.
All right.
Hey, love y'all,
All
brothers.
right, it's Attorney Benjamin Crump. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning. Thank you, brother.